Good evening. The 43rd meeting of the 73rd term of the Baltimore City Council is now called to order. As a reminder to folks, the press, as well as our visitors today, please ensure that you keep your mask on at all times, as well as if you have any electronic devices, that they're on silent. We had an unexpected issue arise today that made it, from a Charm City TV perspective, doesn't allow us to carry our meeting online. Live on Charm City TV. We're online. Thank you for bearing with us as we continue to navigate through the technical challenges and dealing with Charm City TV. In lieu of invocation, I'll ask everyone for a brief moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, we'll go into the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For our showcase this evening, I have the pleasure of welcoming Mr. Tyrone and Ms. April Harp of Harp Vision. Harp Vision is a local small business that makes self-care products with a goal to make self-care rituals accessible for all folks in the city of Baltimore. At this time, I'll ask you to take the floor and introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Tyrone Harper.
And I'm April Harper.
And what we do is our mission is to have people prioritize their well-being. And we do it by offering self-care products, natural soaps, gourmet body scrubs, aromatherapy candles.
And bath tea.
And bath teas that help with inflammation and pain.
Correct. So currently, we start our business based off of our chronic pain conditions. I have endometriosis and Tyron has fibromyalgia. So our business pretty much help just people in the city in general and all across the world just take care of themselves, pull back into themselves, and just take some time for mindfulness and self-care as well.
Yeah, and one of our goals is prioritizing caregivers because caregivers are usually the forgotten ones. They take care of everyone, but no one take care of them. So we want them to be able to pour back into themselves. We know that our products can't cure anything, but it can definitely help with managing those symptoms.
Correct. And we also have partnered with Baltimore City Schools and teaching wellness to the staff, and also just pretty much providing an outlet for teachers and staff to have just a resource for self-care to pour back into themselves when they complete a long day of work and pouring into children in different areas of the school system as well.
And what we do recognize is there is a wellness desert in Baltimore. It's not a place where you can go and really take it easy, let your stresses go. And we have to travel like an hour to get those types of places. So that's something that we are fighting for, to have something like that in Baltimore City.
Yes. And that's about it.
That's pretty much it. Oh, we also have a documentary out right now called Made in America, and you can get to learn a little bit more about us, see what products we offer, but also see the people behind the business.
Yes, and that is on YouTube at the moment.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Do you have a website or contact information?
Yes, our website is www.harp-vision.com.
And we're on social media at Harp Vision or Harp Vision 40 on Instagram.
Tyrone and April, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a good day. You can stay around and hang out with us, but if you cannot, we will not look down upon you if you have to walk out on us, so we appreciate it. At this time, Mr. Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
President Mosby, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Conway, Schleifer, Middleton, Burnett, Bullock, Porter, Costello, Stokes, Glover, Ramos. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now proceed to the adoption of the journal. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, the journal of the October 24th, 2022 proceedings are on the council members' desks.
Without objection, the journal will be adopted. Hearing and seeing none, the journal is adopted. Bills by the mayor can be found, signed by the mayor can be found on pages 2 of the agenda. We'll now turn to executive nominations. Mr. Clerk, if you could please read the first nomination, please.
EA 22-0130, Michael Moisiev, Director, Department of Finance.
This nomination has been assigned to Rules and Oversight. Mr. Clerk.
EA 22-0131, Paris O'Connor Beinert, Member, Fair Election Fund Commission.
This nomination has been assigned to Rules and Oversight. Mr. Clerk.
EA 22-0132, Mansur Abdul Malik, Member, Police Accountability Board.
This nomination has been assigned to Rules and Oversight. Mr. Clerk.
EA 22-0133, Mark Brody, Esquire, Member, Police Accountability Board.
This nomination has been assigned to Rules and Oversight. Mr. Clerk.
EA 22-0134, Janetta Gilmore, Member, Police Accountability Board.
This nomination has been assigned to Rules and Oversight. Mr. Clerk.
EA 22-0135, Lisa Nguyen, Member, Police Accountability Board.
This nomination has been assigned to Rules and Oversight. Mr. Clerk.
EA 22-0136, Avi Woloski, Member, Police Accountability Board.
This nomination has been assigned to Rules and Oversight. We'll now turn to bills to be introduced. Mr. Clerk, if you could please go into the first bill.
City Bill 22-0293, Sale of Property, 1321 Filbert Street, for the purpose of authorizing the mayor and city council of Baltimore to sell at either public or private sale all its interest in certain property that is located at 1321 Filbert Street, Block 7200, Lot 060A, and is no longer needed for public use, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsor, President Mosby, on behalf of the Comptroller.
This bill has been assigned to Ways and Means. Mr. Clerk, next bill.
City Council Bill 22-0294, Sale of Properties, 500 North Pulaski Road and 502 North Pulaski Street, for the purpose of authorizing the mayor and city council of Baltimore to sell at either public or private sale all its interest in certain properties that are located at 500 North Pulaski Street, Block 0117, Lot 001, and 502 North Pulaski Street, Block 0117, Lot 002, and are no longer needed for public use, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsor, President Mosby, on behalf of the Comptroller.
This bill has been assigned to Ways and Means. Mr. Clerk.
City Council Bill 22-0295, rezoning 4911-4917 and 4919-4925 West Forest Park Avenue, for the purpose of changing the zoning for the properties known as 4911-4917 West Forest Park Avenue and 4919-4925 West Forest Park Avenue, as outlined in red on the accompanying plat, from the R1 zoning district to the OS zoning district. Sponsor, Burnett.
This bill has been assigned to Economic Community Development. Mr. Clerk.
City,
Hold on one second. Sure. Are there any additional co-sponsors? Please note that Councilman Ramos would like to be added as a co-sponsor. Mr. Clerk, please read the next bill.
City Council Bill 22-0296, rezoning 810 Leadenhall Street, for the purpose of changing the zoning for the property known as 810 Leadenhall Street, Block 0902, Lot 006, as outlined in red on the accompanying plat, from the IMU-1 zoning district to the TOD-4 zoning district. Sponsor, Costello.
This bill has been assigned to Economic Community Development. Mr. Clerk.
City Council Bill 22-0297, rezoning 2101 Washington Boulevard, for the purpose of changing the zoning for the property known as 2101 Washington Boulevard, Block 0770, Lot 006, as outlined in red on the accompanying plat, from the C2 zoning district to the I1 zoning district. Sponsor, Porter.
This bill has been assigned to Economic Community Development. Mr. Clerk.
City Council Bill 22-0298, rezoning 3905 Bank Street, for the purpose of changing the zoning for the property known as 3905 Bank Street, Block 6315B, Lot 028, as outlined in red on the accompanying plot, from the IMU-1 zoning district to the C2 zoning district. Sponsor, McCray.
This bill has been assigned to ECD. Mr. Clerk.
City Council Bill 22-0299, tax credits, historic properties, applicable application extension, for the purpose of extending the period within which applications may be accepted for the historic improvement tax credit, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsor, Bullock, Costello, Torrance.
At this time, the body would like to recognize Councilman Bullock. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, and also want to thank Chairman Costello for working together on this one. As you know, there are a number of tax credits that the city utilizes, and my position in terms of historical and architectural preservation, we come to see that historic tax credit is one that's very useful in our city. Right now, it's scheduled to sunset in 2023. What this would do would then extend that for another 5 years. So appreciate the support and the opportunity to present this. Thank you so much.
Chairman Costello, the floor is yours.
First, thank you to my colleague from the 9th District for working with me on this. And also, Mr. President, I wanted to reiterate my commitment to working with you under your leadership and with the council as we make our best effort to comprehensively review tax credits and their utility in the absence of the administration moving forward with a similar initiative that we've previously discussed. So I want to thank you for your leadership on that and look forward to that work, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Costello. At this point, are there any additional questions? I think maybe I see a hand of co-sponsor, Chairman Stokes. If we could please add him. Councilman Burnett, if we could please add him. Councilman Cohen, Chairman Conway, Chairman Schleifer, Councilman Glover, as well as Madam Vice President, if we could please allow the record to reflect that. This bill has been assigned to Ways and Means Committee. You can find the consent calendar in Section A on the back of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? It's been moved and probably seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The motion carries. The calendar is now approved. We will now move to bills on second reader. Before we do, I would like to recognize Chairman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move we read short titles for second and third reader for the duration of the meeting.
Without objection, we'll be in short titles for the duration of the meeting. Hearing and seeing none, we are in short titles. First up, we're going to go to Economic Community Development. Mr. Clerk, if you could please read the bill in.
City Council Resolution 21-0113, zoning code modifications.
At this time, I would like to recognize Vice President, City Council, Sharon Green Mills.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bill number 21-0113. The committee held several meetings on this bill. The public was given the opportunity to provide oral and written testimony. The committee had interesting discussions about updating major zoning activities that will impact the entire city, such as new zoning responsibilities for the Board of Municipal Zoning Appeals, outdoor dining changes, carriage houses, electronic signs, building setbacks, bike spaces and parking, and many other zoning topics. I applaud the Department of Planning, in particular, Tamara Woods and Eric Tiso, and also for prioritizing review of the city zoning code. And of course, we look forward to reviewing future zoning modifications. And I also want to give a special thank you to Jennifer Coates of Council Services for working with the committee. Committee amendments are on council members' desks. I move the committee amendments.
There's a motion on the floor. It's been moved and probably second. Before we go vote, I believe, is this germane to the motion? Councilman Dorsey? Is it germane to the motion that's on the floor?
Yes, Mr. President. I'd like to ask that amendment number 5 of the 44 amendments that we're about to vote on be voted separately from the package of the rest.
We can do that, yes.
Thank you, sir.
So to the sponsor of the motion, can we pull that back? And do you mind separating out Amendment 5 from the 44?
Could you explain what Amendment 5 is?
Yes. At this time, Councilman Dorsey, could you explain to the body what Amendment 5 is?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Number 5 is an amendment from Councilman Conway. I'm sure he'd be glad to speak to it, but I principally object to this amendment, and so I want to be able to be clearly able to vote against this one while supporting the rest of the others and certainly all the good work that was done. But this amendment, I believe, would create a bureaucratic and harmful burden on people who are trying to do business in the city, requiring people, for example, who have already, in some cases, undertaken a year-long process and spent thousands of dollars on land use attorneys to have bills come before the city council to have to go through that entire process again to have yet another ordinance passed to make extremely minor changes to things that we have settled on. If they wanted to change the usage of a property by 2 or 5% in some way that's already been permitted, then that would have to come back before the council. If it was something that was conditional by ordinance, it would have to go back before the zoning board. If it was something that had to go before the zoning board, it is common in zoning law for minor changes to be allowable up to a certain percentage threshold within through less cumbersome, burdensome bureaucratic practices than having to go through a zoning board again. Or look, Baltimore City is already practically an anomaly in that we do anything conditionally by ordinance, so to speak, to say nothing of the difficulty that creates in certain circumstances. So that's my concern with this particular amendment, number 5, Mr. President. I appreciate taking a vote on it separately. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Dorsey. It's common practice for this body for us to bring in all of the committee amendments and vote on them all together. The sponsor has a motion on the floor. It's been duly seconded. So the sponsor is allowed to either pull the motion back or we can carry forward with a vote. I think we provided Councilman Dorsey the opportunity to speak on behalf of any unreadiness that he has as it relates to the entire package. So at this time, Madam Vice President, we can move forward with a motion, or you can move a motion to pull it back and pull 5 out.
I move the committee amendments.
All right, well, there's a motion on the floor. It's been properly moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. If we could please allow the record to reflect that there are 13 ayes and 1 nay, the nay being Councilman Dorsey. At this time, Madam Vice President, the floor is yours.
And I move the bill favorable as amended.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The bill is moved as amended. It will be printed for 3rd reading. Mr. Clerk, if you could please go into the next bill.
City Council Resolution 22-0200, Urban Renewal Central Business District Amendment 2.
At this time, we'd like to recognize Vice President, City Council, Sharon
And
Middleton. The floor is yours.
thank you, Mr. President. And this bill was also heard, Bill number 22-0200, was also heard on November 1st, 2022. I move the bill is favorable.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it, and the bill will be printed for 3rd reading. At this time, we can go to
Thank you.
education. Thank you so much, Madam Vice President. At this time, we're going to Education, Workforce, and Youth. Mr. Clerk, the floor is yours.
City Council Resolution 22-0292, Elected Officials Retirement System Benefits Eligibility.
At this time, the body would like to call on Chairman Stokes. Chairman Stokes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Education, Workforce, and Youth Committee held a hearing on Thursday, November the 3rd. There's an amendment on the council member's desk. I move the amendment.
There's a motion on the floor. It's a motion, and it's been properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, we have one explanation of vote for the, is this specific to the amendment or the bill?
I'm sorry, no, I'm waiting for the bill. This was the amendment. My apologies. Yes.
No problem, thank you. So the motion carries. Mr. Chair, the floor is yours.
The amendment passed. I move the bill favorable as amended.
Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. I think we have 2 explanation of votes. At this time, the body would like to recognize Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the intent of this legislation. It is clear that with the potential for question K, it would disrupt the pension system as it exists. However, during the hearing, we heard from the financial experts, both the Retirement Board and the Finance Department, that they requested additional time in order to come up with some options to present to this board, to our council, in order to get the system right. I think it is very clear that we need a robust pension system for both elected and non-elected public servants, but I think it's also important that we be as fiscally prudent as is humanly possible, take our time, and come up with the best decision for this body. When those of us who've served 1 term went in, we came in with the understanding that we would need to serve 3 terms in order to get the pension. whether or not question K passes, we will still have the opportunity to do that. It would allow those of us who've been here, will have now been there for 2 terms, to serve a 3rd and actually a 4th. So I had hoped to hear from Finance and from the Retirement Board as to their explanation of some options instead of just moving forward. Finally, I'll just say that everyone in this room works extremely hard. Everyone serves the public. Everyone cares enormously about this city. But I worry about the perception of self-dealing, that if we move too quickly on any legislation that impacts us directly, unfortunately, we're at a time where folks have a low opinion of government. And so I think it's important to move slowly and deliberately. So I vote no. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. At this time, we'll recognize Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not a member of the committee that heard this bill, so I don't know all of the discussion. But I think, as Councilman Cohen mentioned, I guess the assumption is that this bill is motivated by the possibility of the passage of question K in the election tomorrow. I haven't heard otherwise. But to the point that Councilman Cohen made about taking due time, if question K passes tomorrow, every single person in here will still have an opportunity to vest in the pension as it is today with 12 years, because not one person in this room will be prohibited from serving a 2nd term starting in 2024 or a 3rd term starting in 2028. Nobody in this room will be affected by question K until 2032. We literally have a decade to give more consideration to whether we want to make changes to our pension system, and we have that same decade to, if we wish to stand here and publicly hear a bill to address the matter of term limits, to repeal the changes that would be made by question K. We have a decade to do that. But, and with that in mind, I just do believe that it is premature to be jumping into making changes to the pension system at this time, given the concerns that the Finance Department and the Pension Board representatives mentioned, as Councilman Cohen brought up, and that's why I'm voting no on this. Thank you, Mr. President.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Dorsey. Chairman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I take the public trust of this job very seriously, having served in elected office for 8 years and 33 days. If this charter amendment, question K, along with this ordinance pass, this will immediately impact me directly in making me vested immediately the day it passes. As such, it's inappropriate for me to vote for something that could directly benefit me, and therefore will abstain on this vote out of an abundance of caution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chairman Porter, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, stand up.
Thank you, sir. Similar to Councilman Costello, given the prudence of the bill, I vote to abstain as well. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or concerns? I'll speak real quick to it. I think I've heard a lot that this doesn't impact us, that it impacts us in 2032. I think this charter amendment was not written up in a way of good faith. I'm not going to get into the specifics or the motivation or the origin of where it came from. But I think that as council members, as elected officials, if the citizens of Baltimore vote that they don't want you to be in office for 16 or 20 or 24 years, I think it is prudent of us to be in alignment with where the motivation of the city is. I want to be very clear to the general public. I know you as policymakers understand and know this, that this is not a standalone bill, that this is a companion bill, meaning that the outcome of question K tomorrow, the reason we're voting tonight, directly ties to this. So if the voters are not in support of this, question K gets voted down. If the voters are supportive of this, as well as question K stands up. But the reality is, going into Wednesday, the citizens of Baltimore have determined that they no longer want elected leaders to sit in office for a long period of time. So the reality that we wait to 2032, which I feel is against the motivation of what's been communicated to the voters that will vote tomorrow, I think it's inappropriate. I think that people assume that when we talk about elected officials, that in their city, that if they are no longer supportive of us having a unlimited amount of time in office and are really supportive of term limits, that this bill speaks directly to that. And that is the point of the bill, that's the motivation of the bill, but it's also very specific to the timing. As it relates to us throwing off the pension system, there's a limited number of folks that will be affected by this to allow for the citizens and the will of the city to move forward. It's a pension system that is already overfunded. It's really, really good shape. There's no concern there. But I think as an elected leader, it's really important for us to speak on behalf of what the citizens want. And just because maybe we have the luxury of sitting in office till 2032, which clearly is not necessarily their support or their will, I think that we should give elected officials the ability to live that out. And so with that, that's why I'm supportive of this bill. I think that at this point, there's a motion on the floor. It's been properly adopted as well as I believe approved. If not, I know we have 2 no votes in Councilman Dorsey as well as Councilman Cohen. I know I've heard of 2 abstentions in Chairman Costello as well as Councilwoman Porter. Are there any other folks that would like to communicate their vote? You have to stand if you speak. The floor recognizes Chairman Conway.
Mr. President, I'd like to abstain, and I'd like to explain my vote here. I think you're spot on in that this is a politically motivated move, and I think time is of the essence here. I really, personally, not a fan of Question K, but I do believe it is up to the voters to make that decision. Nonetheless, I think with a matter like this, I think it's important that we operate with the full trust of the folks who elected us, and we can make this decision later on. So I'm going to abstain. Thank you.
Thank you. So I believe, what's the count, Matt?
9 in favor, 2 opposed, 3 abstentions.
So I believe we have 9 in favor, 2 in opposition, and 3 abstentions. With that, this passes. Will be printed for 3rd reading. Next up, Mr. Clerk, we're going to Health, Environment, and Technology.
City Council Resolution 22-0127R, Informational Hearing, 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.
At this time, we'd like to recognize the Chair of the Committee, Chairwoman McCray. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Health, Environment, and Technology Committee held a hearing on the resolution on Wednesday, October 26, 2022. I move the resolution favorably.
Is there a second? It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This resolution is adopted. Now we're going to turn over to committee announcements. Chairs, when you hear your committee, please proceed with any announcements. The first committee, we're going to go to ECD. Madam Vice President, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Economic and Community Development Committee would like to announce the following hearings, which will be held in the Clarence Du Burns Chambers at City Hall and online via WebEx. On December 6, 2022, there are 4 bills added to that hearing. At 2:01 p.m., 22-0279, the Urban Renewal Coldstream Homestead Montebello Amendment, put in by the Council President on behalf of DHCD. At 2:02 p.m., Bill number 22-0280, Urban Renewal Johnson Square Amendment, also housing. 2:03 p.m., 22-0281, Urban Renewal Middle East Amendment, also put in by housing. And 2:04 p.m., 22-0282, and that's the Urban Renewal Oliver Amendment. And just want to add that these bills will be heard before the already scheduled hearing on creating the Department of Aging.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Next, we're going to Education, Workforce, and Youth. Chairman Stokes. Thank you, Chairman Stokes. Next up, Health, Environment, Technology. Chairwoman McCray. Thank you, Chairwoman. Next up, Public Safety Government Operations. Chairman Conway, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've got two announcements. The Public Safety and Government Operations Committee will be meeting here Bill LO 22-0029, Baltimore City Fire Department Apparatus Maintenance and Replacement, sponsored by myself on Wednesday, December 7th at 1 p.m. In this room. And the committee will also hear LO 21-0015, Baltimore City Fire Department EMS Statin Operations, sponsored by myself at 101 in this room as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chairman. At this time, we're going to go to Rules and Legislative Oversight. Chairman Schleifer, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Rules and Legislative Oversight Committee will hold a hearing on Bill EA 22-0123 on November 17th at 1 p.m. Deborah Brooks, Director of Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success. Same day, we'll be holding a hearing on EA 22-0124 at 1:01 for Viola Woolamis, member of Adult Public Guardianship Review Board. On the same day, we'll be holding a bill hearing on EA 22-0125 at 1:02 for Byron Deese, member of the Employee Retirement System Board of Trustees. On the same day, EA 22-0126 at 1:03 p.m. for Charlie Carter, member of Fair Election Fund Commission. EA 22-0127, also on November 17th at 1:04 p.m. for LaShonda Jackson, member of Fair Election Fund Commission. EA 22-0128, November 17th, 1:05, Sam Novi, member of Fair Election Fund Commission. EA 22-0129, November 17th, 1:06 p.m., Jonathan Weinstein, member of Fair Election Fund Commission. EA 22-0130, November 17th, 1:07 p.m., for Michael Moisev, Director of Finance. EA 22-0131, November 17th at 1:07, Paris Beinart, member of Fair Election Fund Commission. EA 22-0132, November 17th at 1:08, for Mansour Abdullah Malik, member of the Police Accountability Board. EA 22-0133, November 17th at 1:09 p.m., Mark Brody, member of Police Accountability Board. EA 22-0134, November 17th at 1:10 for Jeanette Gilmore, member of the Police Accountability Board. EA 22-0135, November 17th at 1:11, Lisa Nugan, member of the Police Accountability Board. And EA 22-0136, November 17th at 1:12 p.m., Avi Wolaski, member of the Police Accountability Board. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this point, we'll go to Ways and Means. Mr. Chair, Chairman Costello. Thank you so much, Chairman Costello. The committee as a whole will meet on Tuesday, November the 15th, 2022, at 5 p.m. to hear Bill number 22-0195, Inclusionary Housing for Baltimore City. This hearing will be televised on Charm City TV, and this hearing was previously scheduled for the 14th. So please note that there is a one-day change from November 14th to November 15th to ensure that we could have the hearing appropriately. We will now move to regular announcements. Members, are there any regular announcements today? Councilwoman Ramos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, colleagues. I have a few announcements this evening. First, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for Wynolia Merchant. She's my constituent and mom of community leader of Sonia Merchant Jones, and Ms. Merchant passed away a couple of weeks ago. She was really a great advocate in our community, so a moment of silence for Wynolia Merchant. Also, EMT firefighter Jake Bicking has served in Engine 31 on Green Mountain Avenue in my district. He was in a car accident after leaving his shift the other day, and we want to wish him well in his recovery. Engine 31 is one of the busiest engines in the city and is in my district, so we do wish him well. A couple of other announcements. On Wednesday, November 9th, Councilman Glover and I are hosting a virtual town hall regarding the MOU for the establishment of the JHU Police. All are invited, and the details are on my website and also available at the councilman's office. Saturday, November 12th, my office is hosting an older adult lunch and learn at the Waverly Y for older adults and their families to learn about estate planning, home repair resources, and more, and all are invited to attend. And last, Mr. President, I want to welcome my constituent Jack Motz in the audience today. He is earning his Eagle Scout badges and wanted to join us today and learn how it is done. His dad, Dan, has joined us. So I just want the council and Mr. President to welcome, go ahead, my constituent. And thank you, Mr. President.
No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Future Eagle Scout, for joining us tonight. Councilwoman Porter, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to personally thank Comptroller Henry for the deed transfer to Filbert Street Garden, what was once a place of illegal dumping in my communities is now going to be a place of neighborhood revitalization for the Curtis Bay community. And so I just wanted to personally thank Comptroller Henry and his staff, and also Lisa and Marsha Collins, those from DPW that assisted in this 24-month deed transfer. Just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I see the hand raised of Councilman Dorsey. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also, if you've never been to the Filbert Street Garden, it's an amazing place, and it's probably next to the most beautiful of all of the city-owned buildings in the city. Really remarkable building right next to it. Mr. President, I just want to say hello and thanks to Ian Cameron for joining us here this evening. Ian is a former staff member of mine who left his time here in the city, working for the city, to join the United States Army, and has finished his service with the Army and is back home here after living in Italy the last few years. Thanks for being with us, Ian.
And if you could stand real quick and we properly applaud this public servant, we truly appreciate you. Thank you for serving the citizens of Baltimore and the entire country. We truly appreciate that. All right. Are there any additional? No? Chairman Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to congratulate Dunbar football team that won JV, and to you, Mayor Scott, we beat Maryville. Thank you.
There's one. Nina, take that back to the mayor, please. Are there any additional announcements? Hearing and seeing, I have two special guests, Taiwan Hughes and Miss Jewel Lumpkins. If you guys could come up, we're going to extend quick floor privileges, sorry about that, to Taiwan and Jewel. We're putting them on the spot, so they might be a little nervous. Come on up. So Taiwan Hughes, and turn around so everyone can see you. You can wave to all your friends and your family. Taiwan Hughes is a senior at Bluford Drew Jemison STEM Academy. I had the opportunity of speaking to Taiwan in his graduating class for their inauguration. He is the class president. Soon to be the valedictorian, but an amazing young man in the city of Baltimore. And Miss Jewel Lumpkins is a senior at my favorite high school. Sorry, we have a little favoritism up on the dais, but that's the Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. They're observing us tonight, but both will be joining us over the next few months as city council pages. So thank you for joining me in providing a very warm and welcoming environment for these two extraordinary young folks in our city. So thank you so much, Taiwan and Jewel. That's it. That's all she wrote. Thank you guys so much. Before I close it out, are there any additional? We have one from Madam Vice President, and you can close us out, Madam Vice President.
Thank you. Before we close out, I just want to put up, I guess, a prayer shout out to a senior that is missing in my district. She's been missing since October 19th in the Dorchester community, right there on Barrington, next to the Garrison Middle School. Her name is Versie Mae Spell. 75-year-old female retired federal government employee and a Orioles greeter has been missing since October 19th. So please, let's keep the family in prayer and hoping that she is found. And on that note,
Madam Vice President, I do have one additional name to add, Miss Elizabeth K. Stevenson. That's Elizabeth K. Stevenson. She's a pillar in our community, a grandmother of the Emerson Village area, but she passed away. So Elizabeth K. Stevenson.
all right. Okay. The next meeting of the City Council will be held on Monday, November 21st, 2022 at 5 p.m. And just another reminder that the Committee of the Whole will have that next meeting on Tuesday, November 15th at 5 p.m. And may we have a moment of silence for Billie Jean Daly, which is the mother of which is Nikki Thompson's mother, the council legislative director, and also Winola Merchant, which is a resident of the 14th district, and also a member, her mother, Sonia Merchant Jones, is also a member of the Commission of Aging, and may we also include, what was her first name? Elizabeth K. Stevenson. And also our continued now victims of homicide and their families, 287 year to date, and our continued people that suffer from the COVID pandemic and our opioid epidemic.
Thank you. There being no new business before the desk, this will conclude the 43rd meeting of the 73rd term of your Baltimore City Council. Baltimore City, we absolutely love you.